If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. Your support helps us share more real, powerful stories that deserve to be heard. In today's story, I'm going to take you inside a night that didn't explode with chaos. It didn't come with screaming. It didn't come with betrayal in the traditional sense. It came quietly. And by morning, nothing in my life was the same. So stay with me until the very end. Because some nights don't shatter your world loudly. They erase it in silence. Before I take you into that night, the one that unraveled decades of marriage without raising its voice, I need to explain something. Loneliness doesn't always look like isolation. Sometimes it looks like sitting across from someone you've loved for 30 years and realizing they no longer see you. Sometimes it looks like sharing a bed, but feeling miles apart. Sometimes it looks like being 54 years old and realizing you've slowly disappeared inside your own life. That's where I was. 54. Not old. Not young. Just tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes. The kind that lives in your chest. The kind that builds quietly after years of swallowing disappointment. My husband, Albert, was 65. We had shared decades together. Anniversaries, hospital visits, laughter, arguments, small victories, financial struggles, late-night talks, silent mornings. We had history. But history doesn't guarantee presence. Somewhere along the way, we stopped being partners and became roommates. And then even that felt too generous. Albert wasn't cruel. That's what made it worse. Cruelty gives you something to fight. Indifference gives you nothing. Every evening followed the same pattern. He would come home, loosen his tie, settle onto the couch, and let the television speak for him. The volume wasn't loud. Just loud enough to fill the space where conversation should have been. I would move through the kitchen quietly. Cooking. Cleaning. Existing. He rarely looked up. Sometimes he fell asleep with the remote still in his hand. Other nights, he disappeared into his study, a room that slowly became his sanctuary and my exile. I began measuring our relationship by the number of days he went without asking me how I was. 3 days. 5. Once nearly 2 weeks. Not because he was angry. Not because we fought. But because I had stopped being urgent. Stopped being new. Stopped being something that required attention. And little by little, I started shrinking. I spoke less. I asked for less. I expected less. Until one day, I realized I had become invisible inside my own marriage. People think cages have bars. They don't. Sometimes they have framed photos and shared mortgages. Every wall of that house held memories of who we used to be. The kitchen still remembered when he used to sneak up behind me and wrap his arms around my waist. The hallway remembered our laughter. The bedroom remembered passion. But the present? The present held silence. And silence, when it stretches too long, becomes violent in its own way. At first, my sadness felt soft. Manageable. Something I could explain away. He's tired. He's aging. Men withdraw. But sadness, when ignored, transforms. It hardens. It sharpens. It becomes anger. And anger, when it has nowhere to go, eventually collapses into helplessness. I wasn't screaming for romance. I wasn't demanding grand gestures. I just wanted to be seen. Once. Truly seen. Not as responsibility. Not as routine. Not as the woman who handled everything. But as the woman he once chose. The woman he once couldn't keep his hands off. The woman who once mattered. But he never looked up long enough to notice what was slipping away. And that night, something inside me cracked and my hands weren't shaking from fear. They were shaking from exhaustion. There's a specific kind of exhaustion that comes from begging silently. From hoping someone will notice your pain, without you having to say it out loud. From trying to be patient long after patience has turned into self-betrayal. I stood in the hallway holding my phone, staring at a name I never imagined calling like that. Hector. Albert's nephew. 27 years old. Young. Attentive. Present in a way that had begun to feel unfamiliar. He didn't treat me like furniture. He didn't treat me like background noise. When he looked at me, he made eye contact. When I spoke, he listened. And I didn't realize how starving I was for that. Until he gave it so easily. I hesitated. because dialing that number felt like crossing an invisible line. But I dialed anyway. When he answered, my voice almost betrayed me. "Hector, can you come over?" A pause. Concern immediately in his tone. "Is everything okay?" I swallowed. "No, it's not." I don't even remember deciding what to say next. The words poured out like floodwater breaching a dam. "Please come take care of your uncle. I'm leaving." There it was. The sentence that had been living inside me for months. Maybe years. Did I truly mean it? I still don't know. Maybe I wanted to leave. Maybe I wanted someone to stop me. Or maybe I just needed someone to understand that I was drowning. Albert wouldn't notice. He hadn't noticed anything in a long time. But Hector, he would. Hours passed slowly. Too slowly. I packed a suitcase with hands that felt disconnected from my body. Sweaters. Toothbrush. Photographs I almost left behind. My heart felt like it was breaking. Not dramatically but quietly. Like ice cracking under weight. Then the front door opened. I stepped into the hallway. Albert was still asleep on the couch. Mouth slightly open. Television whispering to itself. Completely unaware that his wife of decades was preparing to walk out of his life. That image didn't make me angry. It didn't even make me cry. It confirmed something. I was already gone. He just hadn't realized it yet. Then I heard footsteps. Confident. Quick. Hector didn't linger at the door. He didn't call out awkwardly. He walked straight down the hallway toward my bedroom, like he instinctively knew where the storm was. I was kneeling beside the suitcase, trying to force it closed. My hands wouldn't cooperate. My emotions were too loud. Fear, grief, rage, and beneath it all, an ache so deep it felt physical. The door opened softly. I turned. He stood there, concern written across his face. Not distant. Not uncomfortable. Present. "Diana," he said gently. And something inside me almost collapsed at the sound of my name spoken like it mattered. "You can't leave like this." I let out a dry laugh. "Work through what?" I asked. "With a man who hasn't looked at me in months?" My voice cracked despite my effort to sound steady. "He doesn't care whether I stay or go." Hector stepped closer, slow and careful, as if approaching something fragile. "You're not alone," he said quietly. For simple words. But no one had said them to me in a long time. And for the first time that night, the falling stopped.